So you might have heard of the Sennheiser E906, but to use it to mic a bass amp, when it comes to recording bass players have a few choices, but the norm has definitely been to go directly into a mixing board through a preamp, either a physical preamp in between the mixing board and the bass guitar, or a preamp that's inside of whatever software you're using in order to record. And that's usually been efficient. There's usually one bass track that's going to be the dominant bass track, and going in direct like that has been more than fine. So most of the time that's what people do. If you're gonna mic a bass amp, let's say you've got a bass amp that you really like and you like the tone on it and you really just want to capture that sound. You don't want to try to recreate it anyway. You want to put a mic in front of it and you want it to be the ear and you want to have that as your tone. Or you might want to do both. You might want to go right into the mixing board direct and mic your bass amp so that you have a lot of tonal options after the fact. Now ideally you want to use a kick drum mic when it comes to recording a bass amp, just like when it comes to recording a bass drum on a drum set, because those mics are made for the really high levels of air that's going to be pushed at the low frequencies, and they're tuned better for those low frequencies to begin with in order to record or hear them live. So if you have an option, you're probably going to want to go with that. But let's be honest, you probably don't have that as an option all the time, or you're probably utilizing the one kick drum mic you have on the kick drum. Using condenser mic is going to be a lot more counterintuitive because condenser mics are so sensitive that you wouldn't be able to put it anywhere near the bass amp. You'd have to have it really far away and the gain turned down so that you'd be able to capture the sound, but then you'd get the room noise too, so then that's going to be out of the question. So what you're probably going to be left with are instrument mics which are dynamic, such as this Shure SM57 or what this video is about, the E906 by Sennheiser. When it comes to the E906 versus the Shure SM57, I think they're pretty damn identical. The form factor is going to be really what might drive you to buy one over the other. The fact that you can actually just dangle this one, dangle this one, dangle this one. The fact that you can actually dangle this one over a cab versus having to have a mic stand on this one. Or the fact that this one has some switch controls on it. and things like that might drive you a little bit more towards it. There's only a 2-year warranty that comes with the Shure versus the 10-year warranty that comes with the E906. The E906 is a little bit more expensive, so you really do have to make your choices there. But as far as the sound delivery, I think between the two of these, it's pretty identical. Now, one thing about both of these microphones, and when it comes to miking a bass amp, you probably want to get some sort of angle in there. You'll probably notice that in the demos for this video, I have the SM57 slightly angled, and when this mic is dangling over the cabinet, the E906, that one has a little bit of an angle as well. You probably won't be able to tell from where I have the camera set. It just naturally has a little bit of an angle there, both when you have it on a bass cab or a guitar cab, and that's just to help some of the air push by and not overpower it a little bit. That's natural, and for bass guitar, it's a little more ideal. So if you can kind of get it an angle. So is the E906 good for bass guitar? I think so. I think that if it's going to come down to having an instrument mic that you have access to, such as the E906 or some other one, versus having to go out and buy or acquire a kick drum mic, kick drum mics are able to better handle higher SBLs and lower frequencies, but that doesn't mean that instrument mics like this can't handle those, especially if you can compensate by being able to roll off on the bass or the EQ after the fact, or being able to roll off on the bass on your actual amp. Now, when you're in my case, you want to get a microphone that's going to go for everything, because I don't just play bass, and I want to have a dynamic microphone that I can use to record a huge multitude of instruments, including the bass guitar. But I really want to see if I absolutely would need to go out and buy a kick drum mic, or if I'm really going to be okay with having this instrument mic as my main microphone when it comes to recording. Getting the sound to where you want it on the actual amp, and then hearing it come out of the monitors, preferably in another room if you can, while you play through it, and then see what you've got to compensate for. Usually on the amp, you can turn the bass down a little bit, you can turn the drive down a little bit, maybe turn the mid-range up, see what makes it sound like the bass guitar you want it to sound like on the studio monitors, and I think you're good to go. If you're going to be on a live situation, sometimes you don't even have a choice, right? Sometimes they're miking your bass amp with an SM57, and you're like, oh, okay, whatever, as long as it sounds good and it usually does. A lot of times on the mixing board, they'll probably just roll off the bass a little bit and compensate for it, but it's usually fine because the idea is you want to have a dynamic microphone in front of your amp that can handle the air pressure coming out at it and that can translate that back as the sound that you're hearing in your ears. Now with bass guitar, that punch that you feel at the concert, that's really hard to replicate through a microphone electronically on a record. You probably want to get a kick drum mic, or you probably want to put that in front of your bass amp because that's going to transverse that punch all the way through. So if you really want to make it ideal, of course that's the way to go. But it's not a deal breaker if you've got an instrument microphone and you're using it on a bass guitar amp and it's not made for bass. Especially if you have control over things like presence, if you want to accentuate the presence a little bit better and you want to roll off on the bass, or if you want to roll down on the presence so that you can really emphasize the bass a little bit. I think subtleties like that make microphones like this stick out. So if you guys have any questions on the E906, ask down below, get at me on Twitter, Facebook, subscribe if you guys haven't already. If you have been subscribed, you guys probably noticed this is the first video in a very long time. I am trying my damnedest to come out with more of them, so they're going to be coming out as they come out, so please stay subscribed, and if you haven't, of course, subscribe for more. Thank you very much for watching. I will catch you guys in the next one.